Welcome back to another episode of 7 Pals Go to the Movies. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie A Quiet Place Day 1. So just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. A woman named Sam finds herself trapped in New York City during the earliest stages of an invasion by alien creatures with ultra-sensitive hearing. So let's begin with my first prep. It's day 1, and we get to see how it all began from the point of view of a big city like Manhattan. This was a good contrast as we saw how it began in a small town in part 2. Now we get to see how a big city with more people deal with this invasion. I am sure many of us have seen horror films in which more people doesn't really translate into intelligence or organized groups. So we know where this was headed. Well, this is the film, but what I enjoyed about it was that Samira, played by Lupita Nyong'o, has been dealing with cancer and therefore is dying. We get more into this when Eric, played by Joseph Quinn, reads her poem about being given years to live, then months, then weeks, then days, until it's just a few seconds. So she's been living at the doorstep of death for a while, so she's used to it. This is important because it shows how she tackles the invasion. On one hand, she can try to evacuate the city, but then she is still ill and in pain. So she decides to take her fleeing life into her own hands and goes to get pizza. Yes, we will discuss this choice in more detail later, but Eric is in a different place. He is far from his family and far from home. He isn't ill and is basically just lost. Not physically, but in an emotional state in life. So he follows Samira and her cat Frodo. They both have good chemistry and feed off each other. First, Samira, she puts up a barrier to keep Eric away and pushes him actually to go the other way. But Eric insists that he needs to follow her until he figures out what is wrong with her or why is she doing this. And after doing so, he decides that he will follow her and take the same route as her. Next pro. I like how they included the characters we met in part 2 in this movie. Henry, played by Djimon Hounsou. His name was not said in the film, but I found it using Google. We see how he is in part 2 at the Lighthouse Island, but this film helps us understand more of the timeline of the film better, and also we find a little bit more about him and his family. Now let's move on to the cons. Okay, I will say it, the cat, Frodo. Does the film expect me to believe that a cat will not meow or hiss at the death angels? Like, come on, cats will purr, hiss, meow, or even knock things over just because they want to. So the fact that in the film he is shown as a guide or a symbol of stealth and silence, yeah, I really can't buy that. And also a side fact, Lupita had a fear of cats before filming. She had to undergo therapy to overcome this issue. So there you go. Even Lupita didn't like cats at first. Next con. Samira chooses to go for pizza due to her dad's connection to the place next door to it. Okay, fine, but hear me out. Why not, instead of pizza, you say you want to go to the bar where he used to play? Yes, I do understand that they had pizza afterwards every time she went with him. I would have preferred if she had gone to a few places where she had memories of her dad on the way there as she progressed towards the bar and ended up there, where we would have seen the picture on the wall of her dad. Also, for her to play the song, not on the street, but in the bar, by the piano, as she went out the way she chose to go out at the end of the film. Next con. I would have liked if we could have seen Samira and Eric stumble upon the rules that were set in the previous films, such as being quiet keeps you safe, and that being around water hides the sounds you make for the creatures that are chasing you. Because remember, these characters are not the same in the movies and their experiences do not carry over. So we therefore cannot assume that one rule from one character from part 1 will translate over to this movie as knowledge, and they have to discover them by themselves. Yes, we saw how one creature died in the water when Eric and Samira went through the water and ended up in the church, but that was not enough. Also, what was up with the church scene? Eric and Samira are coming out from the hole in the middle of the church and the priest is just standing there chilling. He doesn't give them any help or even acknowledge that they are there. Like, dude, at least act like you saw them and stop praying for a bit. Last con. I saw some scenes in the trailer that were actually taken out in the film. For example, when the generator turns on in the trailer, we see an old man go and turn it off, but in the film it's a different scene and a different person. Still the same ending, but I was kind of hoping that this would be one of the many incidents that the characters would have a chance to learn about the death angels and how they attack and how to evade them. Or even the scene where Eric and Samira are looking at the map at a diner and silently pointing at it and making a plan. That was not in the movie and it was taken out, which brings up the actor Djimon Hounsou. Being in this film, I was certain that he would be the one to help Samira at first and guide her, and then after this they would part ways, but we would learn more about him and his family in this process, making us understand his character in part 2 a little bit more. But nope, nothing. He just tried to silence a man and he ended up killing the guy. Then we see him once more at the end of the film on the boat saying to Eric, "You're safe." Kind of a little bit of a downer there. I actually wanted to see more and have him interact with the characters and someone establish himself for the previous film that we saw, which is the sequel. So my grade for this film is going to be a 6 out of 10. Did we really need this film? Yes and no. We wanted to see how Day 1 began elsewhere. Just like in The Walking Dead, we wanted a prequel like Fear the Walking Dead, which shows us where it all began and how it went down before Rick woke up. So that's what this film is. But did it add anything more to the franchise? I would have to say no. Did we get a different POV of what life means from Samara versus the Abbott family? Yes, we did, in a sense, and that was a great part of the film. I would say just wait for this to be on demand and then watch it. It is fine to watch it when there's nothing else on, but it is not a must-see to understand the previous films from this franchise. So that does it for this review of A Quiet Place Day 1. Please join us next time where we're going to review Longlegs.
Are you still saying your prayers?
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.